Welcome to today's interview, where we'll be exploring the current employment landscape in the Australian finance sector. I'm Ash Broadway, Content and Social Media Specialist at CV Check, and facilitating our interview today is Lewis Panther, Senior Communications Manager at FINSIA. Lewis, how are you today?
Actually, very well. Looking forward to hearing from Matt. We've done a couple of articles together, I think, over the last couple of years for FINSIA. And it's always good to hear from him and Kaizen.
The COVID-19 induced recession has led to an estimated 305 million full-time job losses globally. But while some sectors experienced a huge number of layoffs, lower paid jobs in the tourism, hospitality, arts, and recreation industries, for example, others have seen surprisingly healthy growth in employment. One of those sectors is finance, which has had an additional 10,000 people since the pandemic hit. Joining us to explore this and shed some light on the reasons why is Matt McGilton, Managing Director of Kaizen Recruitment. Matt, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Absolutely, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. And yes, you're spot on in terms of some of your analysis there. The financial services industry as a whole in Australia is very, very buoyant at the moment. So looking forward to hopefully sharing some insights and answering any questions I can from Lewis.
Absolutely, looking forward to it too. So without further ado, over to you, Lewis.
Thank you. So, Matt, can you tell us a little bit more about the employment landscape at the moment? As we've said, despite the economic challenges of COVID-19, finance seems to be one of the healthy sectors. So maybe you can go into a little bit more detail about the roles that we are seeing that are really healthy and tell us why.
Yeah, thanks, Lewis. Great question. We've been surveying the market since this pandemic started in March last year, and we've been regularly gaining insights in terms of what's happening. And I'd just like to say from the outset, it's a privilege to work within this sector that was deemed an essential service when parts of the Australian economy went into lockdown. So what we saw March, April last year was organisations had to adapt to this new reality, working from home, modifying this business models. And so for a period for 8 weeks, there was literally no recruitment. But as these organisations adapted and had to respond to that challenge of digital interviewing, remote onboarding, there was this backlog of recruitment that just seized up, which is now and has been flowing into the financial services employment sector for some time. Like October, December last year was almost back to boom periods where so many organisations had this pent-up recruitment needs, projects that were delayed. But we've seen other areas like risk and compliance as being in huge demand, cybersecurity, ESG and responsible investment is in a huge demand. And that demand in a lot of areas is exceeding supply. And there's also a genuine and real supply side issue that we're seeing. Again, through COVID, we've seen close to 700,000 foreigners on certain work visas in Australia leave the country, unfortunately, and that's going to that is now causing some genuine and real challenges in terms of finding talent in the Australian financial services sector.
I think that probably segues a little into the question I was going to ask and what impact the pandemic has had on talent mobility. Given the border closures, we're hearing about fintechs and those in cybersecurity struggling to get the technical expertise they need. What's that meant for the industry and upskilling or problems for businesses? What's your take on that?
Well, it's great if you've got a skill set and that skill set's in demand. You're seeing multiple opportunities coming your way. I mean, we're having to headhunt people from out of organisations in the days of just putting the ad online and expecting to see talent. We're hearing that consistently across the market. We've heard perhaps there's now 2 job opportunities, every person working in IT at the moment. With that challenge as an opportunity, and what we've seen some of our clients now have really embraced this. Well, why look for the best person just in Sydney CBD or Melbourne CBD? Why don't you look Australia-wide? What about the opportunity of potentially hiring someone in the UK or the US that can work remotely? So businesses are going to have to get creative around this. Mobility is an interesting one. I think this really creates opportunities to work from anywhere, but it really depends on how much organisations have embraced remote working. We've seen some really adopt that into their business. We've seen others phase back to wanting to work purely in an office environment. And we're seeing now candidates deselect on those opportunities that don't provide flexible work arrangements. So it's intriguing. But I think this challenge is going to be with us for the rest of this year and definitely into 2022 around skill shortages until we adapt to this reality of living with COVID and we can get foreigners back into the Australian economy. So it's really a challenging circumstance at the moment. But again, a good problem if you're a candidate with a skill set that's in demand.
Yeah, I think you've probably covered the question we have, and there's an echo on. Did you? I'll phrase that again. to go more into talent mobility. You're Melbourne based, but now that the borders are opening, and there's a scarcity of jobs, mainly coming into the country. But as you've just said, it's people are able to look abroad. Is there much that physical mobility within Australia that you're having to deal with?
Oh, look, absolutely. We are seeing good candidates wanting to move interstate for the right opportunities still. And I think onboarding can alleviate some of those concerns. And some of these concerns would have been pre-COVID. You're in Brisbane. Are you generally committed to relocating to Melbourne or Sydney, for example, or Adelaide or wherever, Perth? Same scenario. So we're saying, well, look, that's not an issue anymore. We can onboard you in your home state, perhaps with a view of coming in, once every quarter, once every month, with maybe the view to relocate permanently. But I think it's provided more of an opportunity for organisations to identify talent anywhere, as opposed to just in the local market. When you talk about career mobility, though, I think that's an interesting one. Why limit yourself as well to just potentially looking for work in your home state or home city? Having said that, though, we do work nationally, Lewis, and we're working for a fund that's based in South Australia at the moment that has specifically engaged us to look for talent on the east coast of Australia, because they've concluded that the talent pools for people that they need in South Australia just aren't there. So that's also been a really interesting challenge around how you convince people to relocate for certain opportunities. I think historically Australians haven't really embraced that, but potentially now it's more of an opportunity.
Just following that on there, if I may, what about the lack of technical skills, or we've talked about skills and the need to carry on training when we've spoken in the past. Are you seeing businesses give opportunities to educate and upskill as well as take these people on? Because clearly, if you're in a having to headhunt situation, people can pick and choose. So they, will take not just the best remuneration package, but also what benefits go with it.
Yeah, great question. And certainly a challenge. In some organisations have been a little bit more innovative and progressive and forward thinking than others. For example, we've worked with a number of clients this year that are planning larger assessment centres to identify talent. And when I say talent, these might be people coming out of Big Four type backgrounds, audit, smart, hardworking, that want to transition into investment roles with a fund. Just because, again, they're not seeing the talent at the right price point in the market. So taking a very longer term approach around identify good people that are passionate and committed, that we can hire and onboard and have a training program to upskill them over a period of 12, 18, 24 months and give them that career development pathway. So typically there'll be in organisations of medium to larger sizes, normally 100 plus people in an organisation that may look at some sort of program like that. But it's going to need to happen because, again, you're spot on. There's just, there is a war for talent for certain skill sets at the moment. And you may make that decision. Do we pay 20, 30% above market to get this person on, or do we hire a more junior candidate and then spend some time training and development? Because that boils down, what do you want to buy? What do you want to hire for? And what are you prepared to train and invest in? So it's a conversation that's happening regionally across many of our clients at the moment.
Which I think, goes to the point of the next question I was going to make. If you're embarking on a career in financial services now, how confident would you be feeling? Is it something? Clearly, from what we've been saying, I would probably think I could answer the question, but I'd rather you tell me. You are the one with the expertise. Where is it a good long-term investment?
Oh, look, absolutely, I think so. The industry's been, we've done a lot of analysis on this. Financial services as a portion of the broader economy, as well as the estate economy down here in Victoria, is around 8, 9, 10%. So it's a big part of the economy. Obviously, we've still got all the major banks that are going through changes, but are also growing. Lending's booming at the moment. The industry super funds that are hitting some unique scale and size, but also consolidating as well. There's a plethora of opportunities. And I remember, I'm not trying to give FINSIA a plug here, but I remember I attended a FINSIA event over a decade ago where I'm showing my vintage. And there was a senior manager there, I think he was working at BlackRock at the time, and he made this comment that from his 15 years in the industry, jobs that he was working in now or his peers didn't exist 10 years ago. And so we're seeing new roles created, and we're seeing new opportunities, investment data, for example, and the evolution of candidates that we're seeing. 10 years ago when I used to recruit investment analysts, the skills that they had 10 years ago versus the skills that the next generation are coming through with, the ability to code, quantitative analytics skill, it's fascinating. So competition is definitely still there, but I'd say there's more opportunities than there ever has been. And what's really exciting is for a lot of organizations, they also have structured career development pathways in a lot of these firms. So retention and development's a key theme that a lot of these organizations really are trying to work hard on. And there's also a lot of graduate recruitment happening in a lot of these larger organizations as well that will give you a great runway to build your career. But I just conclude that, where you start is not where you finish. In the early stages of your career, you probably want to be looking at changing organizations every 18 to 24 months. Some clients hate it when I say that. Other clients just know it's a fact of life that if you can't get the development you need after a period of time, you want to be seeking new opportunities out there and keep upskilling, especially at that embryonic stage of your career. So in conclusion, buoyant, plethora of opportunities at the moment. It really depends on what you want to do and where you want to go.
It's fascinating takeouts, Matt. Really interesting. There's nothing I could add on that conclusion. Thank you very much. I think back to Ashley.
Matt and Lewis, thank you both for your time today. Matt, that was just some incredible insight into an industry that is clearly very agile. And what's so interesting is that they're looking to recruit anywhere and everywhere now. But obviously what comes with that is what the candidates would like as well, which is possibility to work remotely, flexibly. That's just another hurdle in and of itself, I think, for a lot of industries at the moment. But thank you for your time and for uncovering these insights with us. And we look forward to catching up with you both in a couple of months' time and reflecting on changes that have happened.
My pleasure. Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Lewis. Always a pleasure.
Cheers.
Yeah.